Good morning and welcome to Moth News Live Halloween Special. I'm Keith Walsh, and beside me is Oscar Verde.
It's very, very scary.
Thank you. Yes, today is the 31st of October, and we've got a show packed full of stories that reflect both the darkest corners of the news and the creeping edge of innovation. We'll touch on politics, human rights, technology, community, and yes, even a little comedy to lighten the mood. But first, let's have a look at our news in brief. First story: in Ireland's presidential election, Catherine Connolly has been elected with a landslide victory. Yet, alongside the win, there is a striking quantum, a large amount, of spoiled ballots, about 213,000 nationally. It's a big number. Roughly 12 to 13% of votes cast. Some interpret the spoiled votes as a protest vote, voters frustrated by the limited candidate choice or the nomination rules. Others say it's simply disengagement or even confusion. So let's just look at both sides. For the victory, Connolly's win is being seen as a symbolic rebuke of the mainstream parties, a desire for change. And on the spoiled vote side, some election observers say the high level of spoiled ballots signals a vote of no confidence in the system. People saying none of the above. So basically, I've said the same thing twice. The spoiled votes and the vote for Catherine Connolly both are a vote against the government. Is basically what we can read into that. Whatever the reasons are, some people saying if you say, well, there wasn't enough candidates, there was only two candidates in the end, and there were certain people saying, well, that they wanted to run for the presidency, but they couldn't because of the way it's got to be party nominated. It excludes certain people. It's unconstitutional. We need to change the constitution, et cetera, et cetera. If you're saying that, then that's also a vote against the current establishment, the government. So either way you look at it, it was an opportunity for the people to have their say on the country and how it's been run, and they gave it a massive, massive 2 thumbs down. Let's have a look at, we'll keep an eye on that and see how the government responds to this challenge to its to what it's doing. And I knowing our government, it will probably respond to how it responds to everything by just not responding and blaming somebody else. Very, 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 very tragic and sad news coming out of Sudan. I mean, it's been going on for a while, but we've really, just in the last few days, there's been some horrific developments. And I'm not going to get into them really, but just it's there for you if you want to see it. I mean, it just brings, for me, my vintage, I just go back to the Hutus and the Tutsis and what happened between those two groups, and just horrific. And the thing about it is these traumas, they last for generations, and absolutely horrific things being done to people at the moment in Sudan and Congo and Palestine. But the lasting effect of this, like you're talking about generations, this can never ever, like I'll never. I mean, the children, the orphaned children, the women who have lost husbands. It's just, it doesn't bear thinking about. Anyway, fresh efforts are underway to broker a ceasefire in war-torn country. The United States and several Middle Eastern nations are involved in talks aimed at bringing the warring factions together. And that comes in from the State Department. Humanitarian crisis is severe. Millions displaced. Millions. Children in desperate need of aid. And that comes from UNICEF Ireland. And finally, just a spooky story from the high street. The high street in Ireland is facing structural collapse. Apparently, vacancy rates are soaring, shops are closing, and suburbs are increasingly dotted with zombie stores. Empty premises that drag neighbourhoods down. That seems to be an issue now in Ireland. We might keep an eye on that, Oscar, and see what's happening there, because I think that's really important development. I know the shops that have been keeping the high streets going. You're looking at betting shops, phone shops, vape shops. It's almost becoming like the back street is now the front street. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, if you look over here, like just going around town, most of the stores are vape shops now. You're seeing very few like actual unique stores. Everybody gets their groceries from supermarkets. Everybody goes to large retailers online. It is the death of the high street. And what we need to see is some local investment, and also try and limiting this amount of stuff you can buy online to try and grow back the high street if we want to keep British high streets being a thing.
And I think that
Irish high streets.
I don't know why there can't be a role for the high street in online, as in I would buy more online if I could try stuff on. So I don't know why there can't be some kind of like place where you go to like an Argos, but with changing rooms.
Yeah,
where you can like try stuff on, and then they don't need to have the stuff in stock. They just send it out to you. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's like a hybrid.
Yeah, you do also
You're going to tell me that exists already.
I'm going to tell you that exists, and I'm going to tell you something cooler. If you go into Korea, you can walk into a store.
Korea, like the country?
Yeah, South
North
Korea.
or south?
South.
Okay, good.
So you can try on like clothes in a virtual reality thing. So it's augmented reality. So you can see what the clothes look like without trying them on, and then they just give them to you.
I think South Korea has been developed for neurodivergent people.
Yes. It's amazing.
Like, I want to go shopping where I don't actually have to take my clothes off and then put other clothes on. And then when that t-shirt doesn't fit and I feel the shame of it not fitting, and then I have to take that off and then try another one on. And then I'm just like, I hate myself. I hate the shop. I hate the bright lights. And I just want to just never go shopping again. So virtual trying on of clothes sounds good. Listen, let's go to I want to do this first. Sorry, Oscar, before I go to you. I spoke to a young woman called Noeleen Eustace from Newbridge, same place as me. Noeleen lost her son Kelvin. He died by suicide after, and we've spoken a lot about this on MOTH News. He couldn't access the services he needed. A very, very common story. It's a heartbreaking story. Let me just play a part of it now, and you can watch the full version if you want. You can head over to our YouTube after the show, or you can watch it here wherever you're watching this right now. So let me just find that. Yeah, I'll just play a little bit of this, and then, as I say, you can watch the full video on our YouTube channel. Today on MOTH News, we're joined by Noeleen Eustace, a mother from Newbridge, County Kildare, up the bridge. Noeleen tragically lost her son, Kelvin, who died by suicide earlier this year. Kelvin was just 26. He lived with Asperger's syndrome, anxiety, dyspraxia, and sensory processing disorder. And over more than a decade, Noeleen says she fought desperately to get him the help he needed. We've heard this story before. Despite repeated hospital visits, including almost 60 trips to A&E in 1 year, Kelvin was denied inpatient care, and every door, as Noeleen says, was shut. Now, through her campaign, Kelvin's Amendment, she's calling on the Irish government to include dual diagnosis. That's where a person experiences both mental health and substance use issues in the forthcoming mental health bill, and to finally reform how the system responds to people in crisis. Noeleen joins me now to share her story, her campaign, and her message to those in power. Will they listen? Noeleen, you're very welcome. I mean, I love what you're saying, because I don't think people see the connection between struggling mentally. People do not make that connection between struggling mentally and substance abuse.
No.
And it to me, it's as clear as day. And we how we treat people who are struggling. Let's only talk about Ireland, because I mean it's all over the world. But how we treat them, we look at people who are struggling with substance abuse, or whatever way you want to frame it. I think they're just medicating to get through life. I don't even like the word substance. I don't like the term abuse. I think when you see somebody struggling, for me, it's a sign that they can't get the medication they need from the people they need, so they find their own medication. That's substance abuse to me. It's you're dealing with clever people who will find something to help them stay alive, basically.
100%.
So tell me a little bit about Kelvin. Just tell me a little bit about like where your head is at now with regards to Kelvin and what's going on.
As I said to you earlier this morning, it was a very tough morning this morning. I came across his watch and I broke down. And it's little things like that. It just comes out of the blue. You get up and you think it's going to be okay today. And then you just get a wallop of the reality that he's gone. And you said there about the substance misuse. He would have said to me very, very clearly, he would have had times where he was not using, and he wasn't, there's that perception of the user is a down and out. There's lots of people using in their homes today, in their jobs. It's on trains, on buses, like
Yeah.
You know, getting through life, just, you know, and he would have said to me very, very clearly, what medication I'm on is not working for me. And prior to him passing away, he was on a very, very high dose of an antipsychotic, and it didn't work. It wasn't working. Now, our doctor was amazing, but their hands are tied to a degree. They can only do so much because they're a general practitioner. But he, in my opinion, was psychotic a few days before he died. That's my experience of how he was and how he presented, because the last few days was very, 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 very tough on all of us.
Yeah, I mean, it was a tough interview. It was a tough chat. Noeleen, absolutely beautiful woman, and just a great person, and doing good work and trying to turn what is an absolute tragic story, harrowing story for her. I mean, she talks about not doing Christmas this year, and just things like that. Almost like some days not feeling like she can carry on, and then other days feeling the strength because she wants to turn this negative into a positive. And a lot of the time, that's the only way to deal with something that bad. So just keep an eye on. You can watch that back on our YouTube channel, and also there's a petition, and it's mentioned in the interview. So go and watch it and give her your support. Oscar, it's this idea, and I know that you've spoken about bringing people onto this show with regards to services for people struggling with substance abuse, self-medication, let's call it that. But the thing about Kelvin and people like Kelvin, if you turn up, if you're a user, if you drink, if whatever, and you turn up at an A&E, if you turn up at a GP, if you turn up at a health professional, they will tell you to get clean and then come back to me.
Yeah, so there is a massive stigma and there is a massive issue at the moment in the way we manage mental health and people who are turning to substances to try and medicate themselves. What we need to see is a better focus on rehab alongside effective forms of talking therapies. At the moment, most people will be prescribed a form of talking therapy called cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah.
And while that is a very useful tool, it doesn't help those who are severely struggling from not being unable to manage their emotions. Instead, what you need to see is a form of dialectical behavioral therapy, which is a group therapy, which I've personally seen change people's lives. That was working with a mental health charity called Body and Soul, who I hope to have on at some point.
Great. So we might get them on at some point. Excellent. Yeah. I mean, it is that thing of like, if the medical professionals are turning people away because they're high or because they've been drinking, you're kind of missing the point, guys. There's a reason they're high and they're drinking, and then they're turning up and they're struggling. And please stop giving people antipsychotic drugs. I'm not a professional, but even I know the amount of like you're talking about tens of people committing suicide every day in Ireland at the moment. It is an epidemic. So Oscar, let's go to Cork. What's going on down in Cork? Not a good news story from the LGBTQ plus community.
Yeah, a really not good news story. So 2 drag performers, Crystal Queer and Lucia Shining, were attacked in Cork City last weekend while filming a short video promoting a jazz festival over on Oliver Plunkett Street. In the video, it's very graphic. It's all over social media at the minute. We're not going to show it because of the nature of it. One man kicked one of the performers and another struck Crystal in the face, and then the group laughed and filmed at it. It is shocking, but for many in Ireland's queer community, it's not actually surprising. As Crystal said herself, this has happened to me multiple times, but this is the first time I have it on video, which is this is why we are talking about it as like a wider population, because it's been shared.
So we're not just saying this is just 2 people being bullied and attacked because they look different. This is a queer community issue.
It's a queer community issue. I spoke to somebody off record and they said it's it's largely reflective of the reality of Cork nightlife right now. It is very dangerous, is what somebody said.
So Cork nightlife so it's a dangerous place to go out at the moment.
Yes.
Not just for the queer community?
Not just for the queer community, but also if we're looking at some facts and figures around the violence towards the queer community, in late 2024, University College Dublin published research warning of a troubling rise in anti-LGBTQIA+ rhetoric and violence across Ireland. So Professor Kath Brown said the overriding finding from our research is there are significant increases in attacks, which are happening both on and offline, with online activity generally a precursor to offline aggression. So the idea is there that people are seeing hate speech online and then taking that into the street and then harming people. Researchers have also documented harassment campaigns targeting libraries, schools, community spaces, small groups showing up, live streaming, and calling queer staff groomers. Another researcher described a persuasive undercut of anxiety and unease among library workers. And
anxiety amongst library workers.
Yeah, who are working in the libraries and are queer representative, and they are scared of being harassed while just going about their daily business.
Okay.
So in Ireland, there's been a 29% rise in hate motive incidents between 2021 and 2023, with sexual orientation being the second most motive after race.
Okay.
So across Europe, data from EU agencies shows fundamental rights shows 60% of LGBTQIA plus people in Ireland believe violence and harassment have increased, yet only 17% of victims ever report it to Garda. So the real figure is probably higher. And as we're seeing,
of course, people don't report it. Yeah,
as we're seeing with violence against women, people aren't reporting the crimes because they're scared the police won't do anything, and often the police don't. So Crystal,
so there's no follow up. Yeah, did you speak to any? You might speak to Crystal? Or?
I didn't manage to speak to anybody in particular, but going through the Irish Times coverage, Crystal said that she believes her attackers felt emboldened by rhetoric that trickles down from America and then to the UK and then to Ireland. So a lot of this hate speech.
What is that? What is that about, do you think? Because we've always had people in drag. We've always had people. The term drag initially was just somebody. It's Halloween. We're all going to be in drag. Do you know what I mean? Just dressing up as somebody else, it's pretending to be somebody else. It's a thing that many cultures have done for years. So what's driving, drag queen? Why do we hate drag queens in Cork?
I'm gonna give you kind of like a Spark Notes version. So when the internet first came into being, it was a very closed community. When it got wider, loads of people could join in. Within that original closed set of community, people were laterally leaning further and further far right.
Right.
Now that there is wider spaces such as 4chan, 8chan, etc., but there's these unmoderated platforms, and now X as well, where people can say whatever they want to whoever they want, and but
where's the hate coming from?
That's where the hate starts.
But what I'm saying is I understand it.
Yeah,
I understand that it's online. But it's got to come from somewhere. So why is there somebody interested? So it's got to be coming from somewhere. So is it a religious thing? Because it's got to go back. It's a propaganda thing as far as I'm concerned. So why would somebody go online to say something hateful in a closed community when the internet was invented initially? Why is that happening?
Because they think they can say it and get away with it. I'm not trying to. I don't.
No, no. What I'm saying is that yes, they know. They think they're saying it because in those spaces because they think they can get away with it. But why are they thinking those? It's a rhetorical question, really.
Yeah.
Why are they thinking those things, and why do they feel like they want to say them in places where they'll get away with it? Do you know what I mean? And now I suppose what we're seeing is it happening in real life. It's just very interesting that it's definitely been driven by something. This is not just people going online and saying hateful things about some other people.
I think people have always been afraid of things they don't understand. And I think they're turning that fear into hatred very easily. And where it's more socially acceptable, apparently now, in certain spaces of the internet and in certain parts of the community, to be a hateful person than to be aggressive against something you don't understand.
It's just easier.
It's just easier.
We don't really want to go back into we don't want to become Puritans again, where we just, where everything is hidden and we pretend that we're holier than thou. And then, back in Victorian times where it was okay for men to visit brothels, but, women certainly were not allowed to be prostitutes.
Yeah.
And it was okay. But everyone behaved outwardly like they were, the model citizens, but behind closed doors, there was all sorts of drug taking, debauchery and sex going on. And that's the Victorian model. It seems like we want to hide all that stuff again, and it could get weird.
Yeah, it could.
Has it gotten weird?
Violence is always weird in my view.
The violence towards the drag queens is horrendous. But I'm saying generally, if we're going down that route,
it's going to get crazy. It's not going to be good.
It's going to keep getting crazy. Next.
And speaking of things that aren't good, so Something is actually good. A charity called Ruhama, one of Ireland's frontline organizations supporting women affected by prostitution and trafficking, recently reported a 75% rise in the number of women seeking help, with a growing proportion coming from Nigeria and Ghana. So what we're seeing is this reflects a wider European shift where trafficking routes and recruitment methods are constantly evolving. To try and understand those changes, I spoke to a guy called Neil Giles. He's the Director of Intelligence and Global Strategy at Stop the Traffic, and that's an organization which uses data and technology to identify and disrupt trafficking networks. So I asked Neil if he had seen any changes in trafficking patterns since Brexit.
The pattern of people being advertised for who we believe are in circumstances of trafficking has changed. You shared with me some stats from Ruhama that
Do you still want me to
talked about Nigerian and Ghanaian, I think, people in excess numbers that were presenting as victims of trafficking and needing help. I found that quite interesting because in history, particularly when there was the Mediterranean small boats crossing crisis 4 or 5 years ago, where people were heading for Italy, Lampedusa and other parts of Italy, we had lived experience narratives of, young women from Lagos, Nigeria, who would be tempted by an online opportunity, go somewhere expecting to be put on a plane and instead find themselves being driven to the north of the country and being put on the back of a lorry that then drove through the desert to Libya. On the way, they were subject of frightening sexual assaults from a variety of individuals. So essentially, they're already trafficked by the time they got to a North African port. And then they found themselves on the outskirts of major Italian towns and spreading slowly through Europe, where they were working the streets and selling sex. And then we had some anecdotes about how on a Sunday morning they would go to church, because it's very much, for many from Nigeria, their Christian tradition to go to church on a Sunday. And there are English-speaking churches in most major cities in Europe. So they would go to church, and they'd often be accompanied by their traffic
cameras. Okay, so
Found it.
I found the right button. Sorry. So that link that Neil describes between migration routes, faith communities, and exploitation shows how complex trafficking networks have become, but also highlights where prevention can actually begin. So if you're seeing large instances of people speaking English in your community, that's absolutely fine. But if it's primarily a large group of women who are often accompanied by what seem to be like fishy people to you, it's worth reaching out to somebody and saying something. I also asked Neil what he believes is the most effective way to prevent trafficking using technology. So I'm just going to play that clip for you now as well.
Building a significant compendium of those lived experience narratives is the silver bullet to change this world, because from that material, you can begin to generate products that take understandings in different directions. We were able to run Instagram and Facebook ad programs in these very poor communities, and everybody was terribly skeptical about their ability to consume those, but we found that they could. Even in poor communities, they have access to Facebook Lite or Instagram Lite, and these messages played very well in those communities and began a debate that started to unseat the ability of traffickers to just recruit with impunity. Desmond Tutu once said, actually, we need to stop pulling people who are drowning out of the river, stop rescuing people, and we need to go up the river and stop them falling in the first place. That would be much more helpful. I think he was talking about poverty and other issues much more broadly, but the analogy works. If you can reduce the throughput of people into trafficking, you will make much more headway. Now, to do that effectively, you need to give them the knowledge to be able to take a different pathway. Equally, you need to change the economic equation that drives this. This is just about generating money. So if the bad guys think they can't do this anymore safely, they'll stop. But right now, it is the most under-detected, under-prosecuted criminal activity anywhere in the world.
Yeah, very interesting. We touched there on the end, Oscar, thank you very much for that on the technology. And I think Neil was mostly saying, well, we need to get to the people at source before they leave their town, before they get on that plane, before they, jump in that truck to get to wherever they think they're going. But speaking of technology, we have our very own Al here joining us, because Al, your experience of let me see if I can get you. Oh, there you are. Your experience of dealing with human trafficking and technology has been. Do you think that there is a real desire to stop trafficking, especially in Ireland, and speak to your experience of the technology you were working on?
Testing 1 2.
You sound beautiful.
Crap, Keith. You've unfortunately or fortunately unearthed something that's a massive bugbear of mine, right? I can speak to some of the stuff, but some of the other projects I've worked on, I'm under an infinite confidentiality and non-disclosure agreement. But I can speak to some of the stuff I've done. So I've actually created technology that's still being used today in parts of the world, in airports and in other locations, to prevent and to hinder human trafficking and child trafficking. Right? I've been proactively working on this since about 2014, 2015. Okay. And my experience, to be honest, is no, there is no concerted effort to stop trafficking at all. As a matter of fact, there's even a sinister element where they're even preventing progress, right? And I'll speak to how they do it. So there's a structure where the Departments of Justice or the Treasury Departments or whatever would set up an NGO, and the NGOs are recruited and funded to prevent it. And I can say this categorically with the organizations that we have in Ireland: 0 arrests, absolutely 0 prosecutions occur, right?
So these are NGOs set up specifically to deal with human trafficking and to bring those involved in human trafficking to justice.
Yeah, and they do absolutely fuck all, I'll be honest, right? And I've been in those rooms, right? I can speak to something which is probably going to be very controversial. So we built a system. I designed, architected, and invented a system that would have stopped the ability to traffic anybody through an airport. I developed a technology with one of the largest technology companies on the planet, right? We were set to do a trial in one of the largest airports in the US prior to our company going into receivership. That technology was acclaimed by some of the inventors of some of the largest technology in the world as being one of the most sophisticated and novel technologies, which would, back to Oscar's point, scan all of the terminals, car parks, rest areas, gate entrances, security. The entire airport would have been covered by a mesh of AI, which would detect any anomalies in relation to children being accompanied by an adult where the behavior was unusual. I'll give you a live example in some of the information that we discovered. So what the general profile, and I don't want to be derogatory or stereotypical, but unfortunately, in our minds, we have kind of like the Taken profile, right? You know, Liam Neeson, the guys with the leather jackets, the big gold chains, the big mean-looking dudes walking around the airports with the head shaved from a certain part of the world, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay? I watched Back to the Future the other day again, and it's always like the guys, it's the Arabs that turn up in the van to try and kill the dog.
The Libyans are coming. The Libyans are coming. Total bullshit, right? So basically, 9 times out of 10, actually, what happens is the people that are traveling would be of a similar age, which is very unusual. So they're not even, they don't even appear to be siblings, right? Okay, they're probably of the same age group, same kind of qualities and features, traveling together with a host. Okay, that host could be anything from an unassuming, boring-looking dude to a woman, right? Okay, they could be any age category, from kind of, you know, mid-teens, young, up to a bit older. They're going to appear to be quite dazzled in terms of, I have 4 children, and I can tell you now, my kids enter a terminal, they turn into fucking Tasmanian devils. They're into stores, they're buying stuff, they're gone left and right. We're monitoring for safety purposes, but ultimately, like, there's no control. Whereas this anomaly would be, They all travel together. They go to the restrooms together. They go to the store together. They're never out of each other's company. They're doped, right? Okay, they're doped up before they enter the airport. They're most likely going to do the opposite behavior that you would expect of a family. They go to the terminal gate with just enough time. They don't get there early. They're not hanging around. They're moving kind of strategically through each phase of the terminal, right? Okay. They know exactly what gate they're going to. But if you parse in the flight analytics, which we were working on, the flight tickets were most likely booked by a different credit card with a different name. Each of the people that are traveling probably have different names in general, so they don't have the same. They don't share the same surname, so they're not family. Okay, the individual that's traveling with them has no relationship with them, so they have a different name also, and yet they're holding the passports. Okay, right? They will distribute the passports before they hit the terminal gate because they know that if everybody arrives with the same passports, the first thing the security guy is going to say is, why don't they have their own passports? So they're distributed at a very minimal point before the gate, and most likely when there's no restroom between the gate and onboarding.
Right, so last second they hand out the passports just before they board, and then it's like we don't want to appear as a group. Like even as you're speaking, right. I'm thinking back. I'm going, yeah, I feel like I might have witnessed some of this stuff.
Yeah.
So you had developed the technology to, and because I was thinking, they must have had a problem with face recognition technology, but it wasn't that. It was noticing groups or people or strange behaviors, and this was all done through AI. And it was
so I went the opposite way. I said, look, there's 10 other solutions out to doing that stuff, but the reality is they're looking for somebody of a person of interest. The person traveling with them is not a person of interest because they hire somebody who's not a person of interest to do it. So they're not on the radar. They're not on any database. So that's tick box, waste of fucking time.
Like a drug user almost.
Okay. They're not, the kids are not stressed or they don't look out of the ordinary. As a matter of fact, they're making themselves look very ordinary, which again is unusual because nobody's fucking ordinary. 4 kids going to an airport. There's nothing ordinary about it. No. There's bags hanging off, you're losing stuff, you're dropping stuff. It's anarchy, right? And everybody's rushing to the gate and they're stopping off for food. Like it's like it's never goes to fucking plan. Ever, right? Okay. And the ticket's been booked by somebody else, but most likely that credit card is fresh. So what they were doing normally is they would see if that credit card is on the system as being a dodgy credit card. Sure, that's fucking like 20 years ago, right?
It's not going to be,
But we did discover that the tickets were purchased and other tickets were purchased about 6 months before. So there's a pattern with that credit card, right? Okay. So I concentrated on the anomaly part. So all I was trying to do was trigger in real time, right, that something was not correct. So that by the time they reached the border control or terminal, the gate, right, that somebody was alerted that there's something just not really right here. Okay, right? And then we built in an anecdotal part where if they were triggered, somebody, because generally they would kind of not accompany them to the toilet, right? They'd kind of let them off. And you'd send somebody in who would use an opportunity to speak with them when they're in the restroom, whatever, right? Okay, this is our triage plan. Okay, unfortunately, we actually detected something occurring at one stage which I cannot speak to, and unfortunately, because the time delay in the process, which was not of our doing, it was just the systems weren't there. By the time they were able to identify, they were already through, even on the other side. They were already on another flight and gone, right? Okay, but we did detect it from the car park, right? So they had at least 3.5 hours to react to it. And what happened? The privacy process of getting access to the data prevented somebody on site from giving the authorization to review the footage. Whereas if we had a trigger, which is what I created, was an AI model would say, no, this is 95 to 90% probability, high risk. You need to fucking deal with it.
Yeah.
It doesn't require a human to review the footage because it's already done.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. That technology was live in Altada. It was a bigger technology than our financial services. That was purchased in the receivership process and killed. That tech is dead.
So people who aren't interested in stopping human trafficking will buy up technology
No. I go a step further. The guy that purchased Altada from the receivership, Owen
Okay.
Goulding, who runs a cybersecurity company called Integrity 360, sat with me one-to-one categorically, and if he wants to come on affidavit and fucking address it, I will. And told me categorically, I have no interest in that technology, I'm killing it. And he went, boom. That was it. It was all the assets were moved into a fucking repository and they were killed. That was it. No more development required on that product. That's a fucking fact.
I mean, we'd love to chat to him to see why he didn't have any interest in that technology, because to me it seems like a no-brainer.
And it's commercially viable. That's the point. So even if you wanted to say, "Oh, I didn't want to do it for ESG or whatever you call it, fucking process," or "I didn't want to do it as part of a not-for-profit," which, by the way, the largest company in the world at the moment, the most valuable AI company in the world at the moment, is a fucking not-for-profit, which was my idea, right? Okay, which is OpenAI. Believe it or not, it's a not-for-profit company and not commercially viable, red line, right? I also had a meeting with the investor in our company, Elkstone, Alan Merriman, and during the process, we showed a friend of the show, Dick of this week, and we could show a hockey stick of commercial activity, and he redlined it on our financial model as being hypothetical. Right? So I'll step back. During that process of onboarding, I met with most of the agencies, the law enforcement agencies that are looking at this, the responses. I met some of the most wonderful humans that you'll ever meet in your life in the process. And the frustration from those guys is unbelievable. There's a guy, I don't know if you check him out online, called Victor Marks. He's a very active guy in the US. We're I wouldn't say we're online bros, if that makes sense, right? We're Insta bros. We're always back and forth. I'm always supporting him. I send him stuff. He's a fucking incredible dude. Like, he just, like, literally, he's ex special forces, and these guys are getting people back every day. One thing nobody talks about is, as of kind of the last year or two, maybe the year I'm incorrect, right? 61% of trafficking victims still today remain to be women and girls, right? And everybody's looking for the sex trafficking, so they're shrouding it in doubt. But what they don't realize is not just sex trafficking, guys; it's labor.
Yeah,
right. It's slavery.
Well, it's also people,
Right?
Domestic help.
It's slavery. There's not even domestic help. Slavery. And like, it's other sinister stuff, right? Okay. And Ireland, and I'll say this straight out to everybody, and I hope to listen, is pathetic in relation to how they deal with this. They're absolutely pathetic. There is 3,600 plus kids unaccounted for that were trusted to the state to protect them. Unaccounted for.
Are you saying children who maybe have been born in Ireland, live in Ireland, been taken elsewhere, or just moved around? Or just
these are children that would end up in the hands of Tusla or the agencies that are paid to protect them.
Yeah,
and they are unrecorded. They're missing.
Yeah,
and their whereabouts are unknown, and nobody's talking about it. And these NGOs, what they're called, the company's called MECBATs, and happy for JP to come on and speak because I met him, right? And I asked them a categorical question when we built this technology to try and get it deployed in Ireland, and we were blocked by the department, right? And during that conversation, I said, yes, but how many arrests have you actually made? If you've got all this data on what's happening, how many people have you actually stopped?
So basically, they're saying, well, we don't need you. We don't need your help. We're doing fine, but we're actually not actually doing anything. Because this has to bring us on then to the question of a story that's very live at the moment, Prince Andrew and Epstein. I mean, because if there's not the will to look at what he was doing, or the movement of people, or like it's. I know you're saying people are focusing on the sex element of this, but I mean, are there people at high levels who are just sort of like, is it money? We've got money, so we're able to like allow this to happen. We can buy things up. We can shut things down. Is that
it's a global sickness.
Yeah.
That needs to be stopped, and it needs to be stopped, and it needs action. And that's why, in the last couple of weeks, we were speaking about other stuff, and, all the stuff that we're seeing at the moment is just a smokescreen, guys, like, I mean, there's fights here. You're either left or right. And I keep saying this, where's the love? It's just fucking hate. It's like you sit in a room now, and I've never seen it so bad. I was traveling a lot for the last few weeks, and you're sitting in a room. you can't even bring up politics because you just don't know who is going to kick off. It's like, it's not like a light conversation around who's the president of Ireland. It was like, you're either left or extreme right.
It can't be nuanced.
You
I mean,
can't
like,
you can't be neutral. If you're neutral, you're fucking weak. If you're not left, you're not right. And then I'm like, guys, like, we're all humans. Like, I still have to get up in the morning, do my three S's, feed my fucking self, look after my family, and go make a fucking living.
Very hard. I would say you're privy to a lot of things that are going on in certain areas. If you're working on technology to look at sex trafficking, then you're privy, you're aware of stuff that's happening. You're aware of what's going on. You're aware of stuff that's not being reported, that will never be in the mainstream media, or whatever you want to call it, that we might talk about on here. It's very hard for you not to have a certain view that is based on facts, but might seem to other people like a problematic view because maybe mainstream media would like to put you in a certain bracket. Do you know what I mean? I'm just using you as an example as to why it's difficult for people to have conversations. Because
I don't need the mainstream media to call me nuts. I know I'm fucking
what I'm
nuts.
saying is,
I am the mad professor, right? Like, my friends call me the mad scientist. I am fucking nuts. But that doesn't make what I'm saying less credible. It just means that I'm not with the grain, right? That's it.
but what I'm
You're
saying
right.
is, if you're saying things that are based on facts about human trafficking, you're saying there's no will to stop human trafficking. It's much better for the mainstream, for the established, establishment, to say, well, sure, your man's off his head, because they don't have to deal with it. So it's like, sorry, Oscar.
I just want to interject with like some facts that like to back kind of.
You don't want facts.
No,
you want
okay.
facts.
To kind of back up what I was saying, if you look at the United States produces a report every couple of years on like which countries are like needing improvement in terms of measures to like stop trafficking behaviors. Ireland is currently level 2. Neil suggested that the Ireland is open to and working better to try and prevent trafficking, but he's also saying the same thing as you are, where it's not just prostitution, it's not just sex trafficking, it is also massive amounts of labor, especially going into
Oscar just interjecting that. So level 2 is nearly the worst, right? Just to be very clear, or the
level
best.
2 is needing improvement like drastically. The UK is currently number 1, but if you look at our news that broke last week with Sadiq Khan saying how many trafficking victims we've got in London, so there is definitely large areas of need for improvement, and we need to do more. Is my view.
So my understanding is different, and I'm going to break rank here. I know categorically that Ireland was put on the grey list as being falling into category 1 until there was a negotiation done to prevent that, right? Okay, and that was a political move, and I can tell you that categorically because I was in that room, right? Okay. And it was on an academic issue why they were not number 1. Ireland, and what people don't realize is UK is 1, but Ireland is the gateway to the UK, right? 100%. So because the UK is bad is because they're tracking the data. The only reason that Ireland's not number 1 is because they're not tracking the fucking data. Because the organizations that are supposed to track the data are NGOs, and they're funded by the very agencies that are not motivated to make sure the data is highlighted. Right? The other sinister thing, guys, which nobody wants to talk about, is we have an unfortunate epidemic, which is organ harvesting and movement to people. That's it. And that's all done under the guise of this as well.
But I presume there's so much money in this that there's so much, there are people making so much money out of this that they want to shut down any technology that stops it.
I don't even think it's that, Keith, right? I think, look, there's probably other, sinister activities that should make more money, right? The issue here is it's just too fucking easy. It's easy money. It's not even the value of money. It's too fucking easy because there's nobody is stopping it. The US, in fairness to them, are doing a demonstrative job getting a handle on it. They're building in a lot of procedures. They are trying to stop it, right? And I've never heard so many people at a government level and a state level speaking about they need to stop this. They are trying to address it. Okay. And I'm working on some stuff where I'm actively involved in that discussion, so I can speak to it. Okay. But they are trying to drive the process forward, right? Okay. And I know they're getting a lot of negative press at the moment. As you know, I said this in many shows. I'm there every other week. I don't feel what the media is saying about the place. I don't feel that threat, the danger. I know there's a lot of stuff happening that people don't agree with, but the place is feeling 300% fucking safer than it was. And they are trying to catch these guys. Okay? And they are catching them every week, actually. So maybe it appears that it's always kind of been focused on negativity of ICE and immigrants, but the reality is there's a lot of that stuff that's happening. They are actually taking down child trafficking rings as well in that process, right?
So yeah, I mean, the thing about it is, then if we go back to if Oscar, if you talk about like, oh, because it always comes down to the public, doesn't it? Oh, so if you remember the public, this is what you should look out for. But from speaking to you, Alan, from was there any point in saying, oh, I saw something suspicious? Is anybody going to do anything about it? And that's not necessarily something that I think you
Keith, and I do want to spend time on the other topics. I realize that, but this is such an important one. But if you think about even looking at the categories, right? It's like, if we go back to when we were growing up, and obviously, Oscar, this mightn't appeal to you so much as except for Keith, but you will get the sentiment.
This is the man who I asked him which song he knows, and he said Joey Ramone.
Hey,
but he's a well-educated guy, so I think he's going to get my point. But if you remember years ago, one kid going missing was a massive deal. It was on every fucking news outlet.
I'll give you a name. Philip Cairns.
Okay.
Kid from Dublin went missing. Yeah. I still remember his name.
Well, Madeleine McCann, the whole world shut down, right? Okay. And that was a big deal. Like, do people realize what we're talking about here? We're talking about in certain countries, right? If you look at, let's take Europe, just to give you a context, right? Okay. They reckon between 2022 and 2023, right? On a global report, that an average of somewhere between 6,000, 5,000 odd and 7,000 plus are unaccounted for. Unaccounted. That's only the ones that they don't know about. That's not including the reports of people that are actually missing or found, unfortunately, deceased, right? Okay. That's just unaccounted for. Now, if you drill down into that, I think there's, as I mentioned earlier, there's close to 3,600 odd children in Ireland that have been reported to be gone missing thus far.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like, one is bad. I don't even have the words to describe those numbers.
Yeah. So I definitely think MOTH should look at this and look at those numbers, and maybe Oscar, you might take that on and come back to us.
I have loads of, unfortunately, Keith, as you spoke to, I have the real data, which is unfortunate. I have the actual reports that are, and then because they can't quantify the numbers, the number drastically reduces because the agencies don't have the information to back it up. But I have the starting horrific numbers, and then the report that comes out is a watered down version of it every fucking time.
It would make
the shit out of me.
It would make you think that this whole GDPR thing was brought in to stop things, to stop progress, right? Do you know what I mean? But I know you'll have a lot to say on that as well. Al, we will come back to this subject because, and I think that was brilliant. Well done, Oscar. Great. And Al would have plenty to say on that. And I knew from talking to him before, and we've had conversations on here about that. Oscar, we'll chat to you in a minute. We'll quickly go to, will we chat about Synoptica then, Al, where we're at?
Yeah, look, slightly shifting gears, as they call it, but also very relevant.
We spoke about, we haven't mentioned Synoptica, have we, by name?
No, we haven't. So it's a CEO's Brendan Rice. So they were in court yesterday. This is published at this stage, so we can speak to it, and we can speak to the real news between the lines, right? Because as you know, I've an honorary PhD in insolvency in Ireland, not by my own doing or by I ever wanted to have one, but I have it by default, which is the University of Life. So basically, the unusual circumstance in this one is that the investors and shareholders, this, like, get your head around this now, Keith. So, very quick synopsis for everybody. This is a very sophisticated, high-tech company with a stellar team, spun out of Trinity. Technology solves for waste in the food supply chain industry. I've already had domain experts do DD on it, and they said this technology is absolutely phenomenal. They know the founder, the CEO. They said he's a phenomenal person.
Is packaging that says when the food is off? It would save so much waste. Like you talk about the environment.
There's so many benefits: environment, health. Like even ourselves, you know, when you buy something, you're like, you don't know what the heck you're buying, right? Like you buy stuff off the shelf, and it's like 2 days later, it's fucking gonna have to grow on legs and mutating, right?
You have children as well. And my son would always say, "I think that's gone off." I'm like, "It's fine. It's fine. It's just that's the best before day, but it's actually fine." But so this would even save that, like get your children to eat the coleslaw. Do you know what I mean?
Or eat the shiny broccoli that never degrades. Didn't we have those Brussels sprouts last Christmas? Yeah, they're still good at it. Yeah.
Crunchy.
Exactly.
So this technology is like, I mean, this was going to make so much money. Yeah, we're talking like hundreds of billions. I don't know. I don't even know.
But yeah, and look, that's somewhat hypothetical. That's the potential. But if you just look at the current situation, what happened? So the investors that lost interest in the business, in terms of investing, wanted to force a down round, which was a significant dilution, where the CEO was actually going to dilute, I believe, down to like 10% of his holding, which means he went from like 50%, over 50% to like 5%. Like, who would sign up for that, right? Tried to raise money and that was stopped. When he was getting money raised, the potential investor said, you need to sort out your cap table. We'll only invest if the founders are in a very strong position. Can you renegotiate with your incumbent investors? They gave him the proverbial 2 fingers and said no. Pushed it into a process. He tried to get protection of the court. They got the jump on him, pushed him into an interim examinership. Examiner being appointed. My old friend and colleague Graham Kenny was one of the guys driving it, so it has his fucking, muddy fingerprints all over it. Shane McCarthy for KPMG, same fucking team. Bringing in Wallace, Alan Ryan from Wallace is in there writing up documents. Adrian Regan Wall on the same side. So all of these guys coming together, hunting in the pack, built out a structure where now the company's in examinership, and now all of a sudden there's money available to pay all the salaries during the examination process that is being put up by the investors. The very investors who treated their investment as a loan and essentially called that in and pushed the company into examinership. So the investors have pushed it into examinership. Okay?
Yeah.
So now let me get this clear. The company that was hopelessly insolvent is the quote yesterday. All of a sudden now has money available by the investors to keep the company going, because that's one of the tests of examinership, that you must be able to keep the company going as a going concern until the scheme of arrangement is done. And these are the very investors now that are putting forward a bid to take the company out the other side of the examination process and removing the existing team or some of the team. The CEO has called bullshit on it, so he's been trying to fight them. Okay. And he's been highlighting that this is what they refer to as a pre-pack examinership. He was met with great disdain, and that obviously in the mainstream media, again, are doing a hatchet job on him because he tried to stand up for himself. Okay. He had to kind of obviously fold on it, because back to our earlier conversations, Ireland, unless you've got lots of money to throw the process, you can't really fight a process. And why would he be insolvency if he has loads of money? So that's a paradox, and that's self-explanatory in itself, right? So he's in examinership. His representative is Eversheds, and the guy on the other side is ex-Eversheds only in the last couple of months. So you can draw your own conclusion from that, right? So basically, in my humble opinion, looking at it from an educated guess, he has no representation, because he's working with guys that are already, aligned. He's probably the last one to know that, right? Okay. Now it's going to run into an examination process. It's probably going to end up being purchased for a fraction. But here's where it gets really messed up. Most likely the bid that's going to be put forward, it's called a creditor-led bid, will be made by the incumbent investors, and they will use the money that they put in so far as their bid to take it out the other side. So, like, if that's not double dipping, what the heck is it? And again, this is a plead to the legislators and our leaders in Ireland to wake the fuck up. Like, seriously, it's just ruining our reputation as a commercial country, where you can just find yourself in a position, if you're an entrepreneur, within a matter of time, within a moment and a blink of an eye, you end up in a situation where you're called shit, even though you've come up with this project, you've created it, you've developed it, and here we are as nothing more than an asset strip. That's it. There's no other word for it.
Do you think he's any chance of getting justice? Or is it too far gone? Or is it like, is there nobody, is there no judge, or there's nobody, he's up against it?
You see, it's not the judge's fault either, Keith, to be honest, right? Because you're going up in front of a judge that's not an insolvency expert, right? And they can only make a decision on what's presented in front of them, okay? In a very short space of time. So, like, if the facts are presented to a judge, all the judge or the judge residing, all they can do is look at it and say, oh, the company is insolvent. It's very binary, right? Yes, it is insolvent. Oh, yes, I get it. We can't, there's no way, there's no way to resolve this. Oh, examinership. Oh, that means the company's going to survive. I get it. Whereas if you had an insolvency expert involved in that process, which if the founders had the resources to bring somebody in to fight hard, they would say, no, wait a second. The very people that are calling the company shit are using their investment in the company to rebid for the company, which is double dipping, to take it out the other side. And their only agenda and their only sole purpose here is to get their hands on a very sophisticated technology. And most likely, the receiver, the beneficiary of this process is somebody who's already in the camp that wants it. And they're already deciding what they're going to bid for it. Which is like, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. It's called a pre-pack, right? So what you have here, once again, and I've been through this process, is shareholders and investors misbehaving, acting maliciously to bring down a company from the inside out. And in the US, it's called inside fucking trading. In the UK, it's called bad actor behavior. If you did this in any other location rather than Ireland and others, I'm not sure, I'm not going to say generally, but any of the sophisticated countries, right, were supposed to be developed. If you did this in any other country, you would be entitled as the founder to go to shareholders and say, I'm taking back your shareholding because you're bad actors. And I can prove it. Okay? But you cannot, and here's where it gets really complex. Brendan and Steve are up against it because not only are they shareholders, they have the ability to appoint a director as well. So they've also a director in there. And my understanding is that said director made an objection in the court as well to try to pull the company down even further. Like, again, that's a very obvious breach of fiduciary duties, my humble opinion, right? So at its height, they're frustrating the process. On a sinister level, it's a setup structure from probably a year ago, 2 years ago. Like, they've been grooming this.
But we've seen this before. It's been done all the time.
Many times.
We will at some stage show back to back each company this has happened to.
And if I could just further expand upon that, Pete, one thing I failed to mention is NDRC, which we covered, are in there, as is Enterprise Ireland. 2 state bodies funded by the state. I'm open to correction, but I believe the investor group Bools from Cork are heavily involved in Enterprise Ireland match funding as well. I think they get some kind of incentives and stuff. I'm not really sure that. Maybe Oscar can take that forward and look into it. But we've covered the NDRC and the Enterprise Ireland. We've said it many times here. When the NDRC was restructured, there's going to be carnage. They are standing back and doing absolutely nothing. So there needs to be a policy change. There needs to be somebody start looking at this from an investigation perspective to say, what the fuck is going on here? And I'll tell you something else as well, Keith. I know categorically there was a bid made by the founders. They tried to appoint their own co-examiner, which is a very credible guy, Kieran Wallace, and he was rejected. Right? Okay? And that was in the paperwork. They rejected the appointment of a co-examiner. So that needs further examination, pardon upon, in terms of if somebody was bona fide, why would they prevent the founders from getting fair due process unless they were afraid of something? That's it. And I want to call all those guys out. Shame on you guys again. Honestly,
Yeah,
it's absolutely disgraceful.
but this it is disgraceful. This story will run, as they say, and we'll come back to it, and we'll make sure we keep an eye on it. So watch this space. Al, we won't let you go just yet, but Oscar, can you just give me? We're going to cover this in more depth, but just if you could just give me a little shout out to the hunger strike people, just give us a line on that, and we'll come back to them, because I've gotten in touch with some of the people involved, and I've got their numbers, and we're going to get some. We're going to do a little interview with them for next week. So just a line on what's happening.
So it's the 40th day of a hunger strike outside Leinster House. The people protesting are survivors of Ireland's industrial and reformatory schools. They're in their 70s and 80s, and they're saying they haven't received any of the care that the Irish state has promised, and that's something that happens continuously.
Okay, so that hunger strike is going on at the moment. MOTH News will be doing more on that. We might have to send you over. To Dublin to hang out with some hunger strikers. So best of luck to them. We're right behind you, and give us a shout if you want to chat about anything. This is your platform. And very quickly, can you just do that very quickly, because we've totally run out of time. Just a little Halloween and finally for you, Al.
Okay, so every October, the world collectively decides that death is fun again. We are carving smiling faces into favegetable, hanging fake corpses in our gardens, and hand out miniature chocolate.
Now, this seems like it's going to be a lot longer than I have time for. He's getting into the whole, like, I know you wrote all this, but I just need the top line. Basically, what you're trying to say is Halloween was invented in Ireland. That's the story.
Halloween was invented in Ireland. That's the story. It was originally called Samhain.
Samhain. Good.
And then the Romans happened, then some Celts happened. No, then the Romans happened to the Celts, and the Christians happened to the Romans, and now we have Halloween.
Yeah, basically the Catholic Church took our beautiful Samhain and turned it into Halloween. And it is, do you know what it is? Do you know what it's about?
It was about like feeding the dead or something.
Yeah, it's the time when the veil between the dead and the alive is very, very thin. And you don't know who's alive and who's dead. And the reason people wear masks is because they don't want the dead to know who they are. And also, so you're not recognized. You don't know who's dead and who's alive. And it's all sorts. You're walking between the two spaces, the dead and the alive. And it's like, I suppose it's a bit like the Cinco de Mayo in Mexico. And also, I don't know if you know where the pumpkin tradition comes from.
I don't.
Put your hat on. The pumpkin tradition comes from...
Happy Halloween, guys.
It's not very scary. Scary guy from some computer game.
Halo, isn't it?
It's Halo. Yeah. All Halos, Eve. Sorry.
Is that your costume tonight, Oscar?
Yeah, that is going to be the part of the costume tonight. Yes.
Very cool. I'm Darth Vader.
Which member of Daft Punk are you? So the pumpkin with the light in the middle, the carving of the pumpkin, comes from this tradition where Irish people would go from house to house. So of an evening in the dark, it would be you'd go to Oscar's house. Oscar would have someone over. He'd be telling some stories. He'd have a Kamalia. He'd have some sort of like, traditional music, whatever's going on. He'd have them. So we'd all go to Oscar's house and hang out. And Oscar would have the fire. That means we're not all in our own homes lighting our fires and burning through our fuel. So we all hang out in your house, in your kitchen. And then when it was time to go home, we'd take a carved out turnip, and we'd take an ember from the fire, we'd put it into our carved out turnip, and the ember would stay. We'd put a little lid on it made out of the turnip, is cut open. The ember would stay lighting until we got home, and then with that ember, we'd put it into our fireplace, and we'd get our fire going for the night. And that's where they use pumpkins, and that's like an American thing, but it was turnips initially. You carved the turnip, and that was the tradition. That was where the jack-o'-lantern came from. Boom.
Amazing.
Amazing.
I can't see anything.
I think you can take it off now. Thank you very much for that. And one more final thing, and then we can go. Is okay from you? One more final thing. So we go back to our friend Bobby Drone. Al, this guy. There's a story. Look, there's a story at the moment of the man who's delivering food. His food by drone to places in Dublin, and we mentioned it before that it wasn't quite clear whether he actually had permission to do this. I don't know if you can if you can add to this or verify. He seemed to be acting in a sort of a like, well, look, this is progress and you can't stop progress and I don't care what the locals think. Well, it turns out that the people of Blanchardstown did have a say, and democracy does work, because the drone delivery around Blanchardstown has been stopped. So this company is called Mana. Mana were delivering food around Dundrum, other areas, Blanchardstown included. The people in Blanchardstown said, these drones are too loud. They sound like tractors. We don't want noise pollution. These have to stop. And he was stopped. So this is one of those weird, interesting stories around what happened to the technology. It's now in America. Al, I don't know if you want to chip in a little bit on this, or will we just play the podcast?
Go for it.
So this is Bobby Drone's podcast. Al, do you want to say something in this, or will we just go out on this?
No, go for it. I'll talk afterwards.
Oh, he's going to talk afterwards. All right.
1, 2, 3, 4. Droning on with Bobby Drone.
Sushi in the sky in Ducky. Sushi in the sky in Ducky. Oh, hello and welcome back to Droning On, the podcast for people who believe gravity is just a suggestion, man. Sad news, droners. My drones have been banned in Blanchardstown, and the people have spoken. What they've said is, shut the fuck up, Bobby. So apparently the locals say the drone sounded like a lawnmower in the sky. Oh, that gives me an idea. Flying lawnmowers that deliver themselves. Excellent. The locals called it disruptive. Well, yeah, that's literally the business model. I love disrupting shit, especially markets. I've been wearing black for 3 days, mourning the death of creativity, of progress. I held a candlelit vigil in Ballsbridge. The drones held the candles. It was breathtaking. People say we invaded their privacy. Please, we're not filming people as if. We're filming vibes. We might know who in Blanchardstown wears pajamas to the shop, but that's just R&D for our upcoming delivery offer. Wait for it. Pennies from heaven. We'll be dropping pennies pajamas literally down your chimney for Christmas. So what now? Well, we pivot, obviously. We're developing silent drones. They're called careless whispers. They use stealth tech so nobody hears them coming, not even the authorities. It's Amazon Prime meets the CIA. We've turned fear into a business model. It's called Fear Tech. And investors love it. Enterprise Ireland have already sent us a fruit basket, and it's got kumquats. Look, Blanchardstown wasn't ready for us. They're still a 2 feet on the ground kind of town, which is fine. Let them have their peace and their footpaths and their shoes. Next week on Droning On, I explore emotional support drones for influencers who feel shadow banned by the universe. Until then, stay posh, stay buzzin', stay banned. I've been Bobby, you've been okay.
Droning on with Bobby Drone.
Trying to make it.
Bobby Drone. Droning on. Totally unrelated to the a weird, fantastical creation.
What did I learn? One of the few things I learned from the Christian Brothers many years ago is the term they used was, don't let the door hit you on the way out. apparently he's emigrated. He's becoming an immigrant.
I really wanted to play "Leaving on a Jet Plane" by John Denver for you, and I just don't have the technology. We need to look at that. Well, I can sing it for you. Well, my bags are packed. I'm ready to go. Something. No, la 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 la. Where to go? I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back.
I'm only joking about that, by the way. That's just a rumor. Okay, I didn't corroborate that story. Sorry, Oscar. I'm infringing on your journalistic validation and evidence.
Oscar's done me in court.
It's just a rumor. It's a rumor. Allegedly.
If we make stuff up, Oscar, you're the journalist, so you have to go. You have to face the consequences. You're in charge.
Actually, on a serious note, I did hear he's pivoting into he's setting up an Amazon marketplace for white shoes.
Allegedly.
If that guy pivots anymore, he'll turn into a drill.
Or drone.
Hey,
Is he dressed up as a drone for Halloween?
I think sushi in the sky in Dalkey. Come on, man. I'm not getting the love for this at all. Right, we gotta go. We gotta go. We gotta
very fishy about that story, Keith. Okay, Oscar, see you, my man.
Low-hanging fruit baskets. Right. Take it easy, man.
Keith.
We'll say goodbye. Oscar, anything? Is that it? Can we go now?
Yeah,
You want to put your hat back on? Daft Punk.
Keep it classy.
Chief, man, come on.
Good luck.
During the
Take it
21st
easy.
century.
Take it easy from me, from the French guy from Daft Punk. We'll see you next week. You know where we are. If you need a platform, you have a story, nobody's interested, come and talk to us. We'll give you we'll hand over our platform to you as long as you're not Bobby Drone. Have a good day.